Hi, here we are again, and I'd like to continue my discussion from the last video where we talked about physics categories, and we're going to apply these to the game we've been working on. And this is the last slide from the last video, and this is explaining how we're going to set up the physics categories for collisions and contacts for several different kinds of objects, right? So let's put that away. And then what we'll do is we'll head back to our Xcode project, and you can see we've got game scene over here. We got our landscape class, our ground, our player class, and what we're going to do is we're going to make a brand new file. So I did Command N, and I'm going to make a new Swift file, and we'll call this physics category. Oops, there we go, right? Physics category. And what we'll do here is we'll make a struct, and we'll call it physics category. Okay, so what are we doing? Essentially, what we're going to do is we're going to make an object that has a bunch of static properties that we can access anywhere in our project. Okay, so just a quick refresher: static properties are properties that belong to the class itself, and we don't have to make an instance in order to access those properties. Okay, so we can just talk directly to the class, and the class is available throughout our program. In a lot of ways, these are kind of global, but they're not really global to the program. They're kind of owned by this struct. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to say static let. And if you recall from our note here, we got player, ground, and coin. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll say, actually I forgot, there's one other one that I didn't mention here, but it's mentioned in the earlier slide, is we have the category of none. Okay, so let's start with that one. So we'll say none, and then we'll say equals, and we want to make sort of a binary number, right? And for 0, the number is 0, okay? And we want this also to be a uint32. So we better mark it as a uint32, because otherwise Swift will probably mark it as an int or a double or something like that, right? Let's see. Yeah, see, it would have said int there, but actually we need uint32. So let's do that. Okay, so there we go. So now what do we want to do? We want to make the player. Okay, so we'll say static let player be a uint32, and now we're going to make a binary number, and there's a few ways to do this. I'm going to take this method here, and it will be ob1. Okay, so this is like saying, like, hey, let's make a binary number, and it's just going to be a 1 in the first digit, right? And so that's actually what we have, right here, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, okay? And then we'll do the same thing for the others. So, well, let's say static let ground be a uint32, and then what we're going to do is we're going to say b10. So this should be the equivalent of 0, 0, 0, right? This one should be, 0, 0, 0, 1. This should be, 0, 0, 1, 0, right? And we're setting up our category. So each one of these columns, again, if it has a 1 in it, that's something in that category, okay? So this belongs to no categories. This is in the first column category. This is in the second column category, right? That's one way to look at how these categories work, right? So then what else do we have? We have coin, right? So let's do uint 32, and this will be 0b100. And so that's the equivalent of this, right? Okay, and then maybe we want to have some other objects too. We'll add those later, right? But let's try and set these up now and apply them to our objects in the scene, right? So when we look at the ground, right, what we're going to do is we're going to assign it a physics body, And then after we've assigned the physics body here, I'm in ground, Swift, and then I'm in setup because that's where we set up the physics body. And then what we'll do is we'll say physics body dot category bitmask equals, and then we'll get the value that we stored in physics category under ground, right? Because this is the, this is the value for ground, right? So we've got it stored here and we can reference it anywhere. And if we need to change it, we can, just change it in one place over here, right? So that's kind of the beauty of putting it all in here, right? And then let's do the player. So for player, we'll go down to setup, right? And then we'll say, physics body dot category bitmask equals physics category dot player. Okay. I don't have a coin object yet, but when we do, we're going to use that again, right? But anyway, that's how we're going to set this up, right? Wait, there's a couple more things to do. Let's go back to our slideshow, right? So if you recall in the last slide, we needed to also set the collision and the contact, right? So we have to say, who the player will collide with and who, like when the player contacts something, when we want to get called back and notified that this contact occurred, like who that is, right? So what objects the player can contact with, and which ones they can collide with. And the same goes for the ground. So let's set those also now. So let's go back to ground. We'll start there, right? And then we'll say physics body dot, and first we'll do the collision. So we'll do collision bitmask equals, and now remember the ground collides with the player. So we'll say physics category dot player, okay? And then for contact, we'll say contact test bitmask is physics category none, okay? Because the ground doesn't register a contact with anything. If we wanted to be notified when we contact the player, then we could do this, right? But the ground doesn't need to know for now, so we'll put none in there. Let's go to the player and do the same thing. Okay, so now let's do physics body dot collision bitmask. I like to do these things in the same order everywhere, and then it's easier for me to sort it out later if there's a problem. So let's do physics category. So this is who the player collides with, right? Player collides with ground, right? So we'll put ground in here. And then we'll do physics body dot contact test bitmask equals, and I don't really care when the player contacts anything, but actually you know what, I want them to contact the coin, but I don't have the coin yet, but we'll set it up. But I can put it in here, right? So I'll say the physics body contact test bitmask for the player is going to be physics category coin, right? So anytime the player contacts a coin, we'll be notified, okay? I don't have any coins yet. We're going to add those in the future, right? But anyway, that's how we would apply the ideas that we talked about in the last video directly to our code. And this is a great way to organize them by using a struct with some static properties, right? So anyway, so thanks for watching, and I hope that that's informative, and we'll continue this with in another video and kind of build on everything here, okay?